Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense, because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions, but not everyone uses logic. Now, I also have another YouTube channel called Latina Diaspora, where I discuss issues pertaining to Latinos in the United States. The link to that channel is in the description. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And the subscriber mode has been enabled for the first 5 minutes. Meaning, if you are not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, must have been a subscriber for at least 5 minutes. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who've already subscribed to the channel. Whether you've been a supporter from the very beginning or just recently joined, I really appreciate your love and continued support. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, as well as those who allow me to enter into your devices and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. So, what I'm going to ask you to do, if you have not done so already, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and set the bell notifications to all. So, therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. So, as you can see by the thumbnail, the topic for tonight is going to be ignore the noise. What is noise? Noise could be anything as far as negative people saying anything, haters addressing you. It could be people that have nothing constructive to say. So what I'm going to be doing is help you to deal with the haters. Now, before we get into the main topic, we're going to have another episode of In My Words. Now, the first thing I want to talk about in this segment is the concept of time. Okay. When you think about it, each one of us has 24 hours in each day, and in each hour there's 60 minutes, and in each minute there's 60 seconds. So when it comes to time, it is a limited resource. Now, many of us are able to use our time constructively, and we do it in many ways. Many of us go out there and work and engage in working away from our residences 7 to 8 hours per day, sometimes longer. And then there are those of us who don't work, but yet some of us go to school, whether it be college, university, high school, or trade school. And then there are those of us that use our time to volunteer in different endeavors and organizations and things of that nature. And then there are those who waste their time in activity that's not being productive. Now, one thing we do see here in these YouTube streets is that we have individuals that instead of using that time in a constructive way, they use their time to foolishly waste time getting into beefs with other content creators or griping about certain individuals or constantly speaking about the same issues multiple times and multiple occasions. What that does is it does drive some people away because many of us don't want to hear the same version of the same story told 6,000 times already. And then there are some of us who waste our time uh, focusing on things that happened several months ago or several years ago. Okay. And unfortunately, there's some individuals that have never learned to get past certain situations or certain events or past hurts. Okay. And that's because there have been people that have been going around with untreated trauma for years. One thing I've said before, and I will say, is that hurt people hurt people. And let me explain what do I mean by that. Is that whenever anyone that's been through a hurtful situation, regardless of the situation, regardless of how it happened, when those individuals, for whatever reason, do not choose to deal with it and just ignore it, it does affect how they interact with others. And it also creates a false image, a false perception based on what one person did, or perhaps a small group of people, what they did. And our judgment are clouded. That is why it's very important that whenever you've been through a traumatic situation or a painful situation, that you need to heal yourself, whether it be through therapy, whether it be through prayer, whether it be basically just disengaging on social media for a length of time. That is an individual situation, and only you can address that. Okay, and only you can choose to take whatever actions which are necessary to deal with past hurts, to deal with past disappointments. Some of us are able to get through it, and some of us have been made stronger by past disappointments because it has taught us to look at things with a different perspective. Some of us have been able to get up, move on. Others have not. Um, the next thing I'm going to talk about is remaining in the past. There are certain individuals that they're focused on things that happened 4 years ago, 5 years ago, or perhaps in their childhood, and they never got past that, and they never sought to seek a resolution. Okay, not all of us have been blessed with a happy childhood. There are those of us that have been through traumatic and sad situations. Some of us been, experienced the death of a parent. Some of us has been experienced the death of a sibling. Some of us has been betrayed by someone that we loved and trusted. Okay. And instead of seeking resolution, instead of seeking healing, what they'll do is they'll just ignore that, and then based on all future interactions, based on what happened to that one situation, which is unfortunate. Okay. That's basically blaming others for the actions of a few. Okay. Which demonstrates a certain lack of maturity on your part. Now, what is the solution? Okay, the solution is admit that you've been affected in some way. Seek emotional healing. Speak mental healing. Because as long as you are hurt, as long as you do not seek healing for yourself, you're going to have a very poor perspective how others are. And you're going to be looking for people to attack when it's not necessary, because your present and your future is based on what happened in the past. We can learn from the past in the sense that we can take a look at the errors that we made, the times that we exercised poor judgment, and learn from it and to think differently, analyze differently, and come to hopefully a different conclusion. There's a word for that. It is called maturity. Okay. But there's certain words that people lack. One of them is maturity. Another one is accountability, which for some people, it is like kryptonite. Some people, it's easier for them to blame others for situations that they entered. As long as you can blame someone for your past mistakes, there is no need for you to take accountability. There is no need for you to learn, because you can always blame your circumstances on other people. Um, it is a very sad way to function in life. I have a saying, it's not good English, but it's true. Whenever you mess up, fess up. In other words, be the mature adult. Acknowledge that you made a mistake. Learn from that mistake, and therefore you will not make that same mistake. All of us are capable of taking individual responsibility. Not all of us can, not all of us will. And that is the reality. You have to be able to want to move past your hurts, move past your disappointments, move past your betrayals. Okay. Only you can make that decision. And with that being said, we're going to go to the main topic. Now, before I continue, let me state for the record that the link to join the panel, should anyone wishes to hit that link and opine regarding the topic at hand, they may do so. Let me also make it perfectly clear, if I never seen you before, if I never heard from you before, I will insist that you camp up in the backstage to make sure that no one tries to flash any adult content, which would cause the people of YouTube to take down the stream. Once I make that determination that you are not going to do that, that you are going to abide by my rules and guidelines, then you'll be allowed on the panel. Okay. So let's focus on ignore the noise. Now, what is the noise? Okay. The noise could be many things. Okay. And this is particularly true when it comes to dealing with those individuals that, for whatever reason, have issues with you. And it's not necessarily due to what you have said or done. It's just that for some people, they have issues. And that stems from the fact that not everyone is going to be pleased with you. Not everyone's going to be happy with you. You know, In my time as a content creator, one thing I have observed that for the most part, people who have issues with me had to do with either one or two areas. They have issues with me regarding my content. The other, the other general area is that people have issues with those I choose to associate with. Now, I have a simple philosophy when it comes to people that I interact with. If you're cool with me, I'm cool with you. Okay. If you find that I'm someone that you can interact in a positive way, that you enjoy interacting with me, that you enjoy my content, then I'm going to be fine with you. Does everyone feel that way? No. There are certain individuals that have spoken ill will about me, and there have been certain individuals that devoted lives and videos saying negative things about your show. So this is what I call part of it is called the noise. Okay. Another part of the noise is when people take your content, use your content without your permission for the purpose of to argue, to put down, to say negative things, to express falsehoods and outright lies. Now, in my nearly 5 years as a content creator, I have dealt with with haters, and I have dealt with people who have created false narratives. Some of them are funny when you think about it. And usually the ones that speak the loudest against you are the ones that they never seen your content, or they've seen your content and then just continue to paint a false narrative. Now, another thing that I truly believe is that I cannot control what other people say or do. I control what is my response. And it's been my belief, it's been my philosophy that for the most part, whenever people paint a false narrative, or when people use your content without your authorization, or when people say lies, the best for the most part is let's let them say whatever they wish. Now, there are times when you do have to try to set the record straight, but you do it one time. If individuals wish to continue spreading their false narratives, there's nothing you can do. Okay? Because remember what I said. You cannot control what other people say or do about you. You control your response. Now, I have also dealt with people creating content, painting a false narrative about yours truly. Now, what I have noticed that with a lot of these individuals, they will create this type of content, expressing their false narratives, only to private their content or delete their content. I mean, I can only speculate on the why. But when you think about it, why devote time and energy on content only to be privated or deleted soon after? That is a colossal waste of time. Particularly if we're talking about lives, which is like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, that is a huge chunk of your time to devote to one individual. And then you're going to private your content. Now, out of all the content that I have created, whether it be through my lives, whether it be my short videos, whether it be all videos in general, which is over 2,000. Do you know how many videos I have deleted or privated? 1. Why? Because I make sure that when I do air content, it's not going to be something I'm going to regret. And if it's going to be something I'm going to regret, then I'm not going to produce it. It is that simple, folks. But it just boggles my mind when people devote multiple hours on an individual, talking trash about the individual, and then private it. Why? I mean, I can only speculate on the why. But, I mean, whatever floats your boat, I guess. Now, noise comes in many ways or many forms. It could be people that trash talk you. It could be people making memes about you in a negative way. Or it could be people trying to dox you. In other words, dig deep and publish private information about you on social media with the purpose of embarrass, humiliate, or frighten you. That is why when you are a content creator, you have to be mindful of what you wish to share. Because once it hits the internet, it's there forever. Even if you decide to delete it or private it, people can record, people can take screenshots and use it. So it's been my philosophy that when it comes to my personal life, there's a lot of information that stays personal, that stays confidential. Now, of course, the exception to this was when I was giving you my life story regarding problem with my arthritic knee. And the purpose sharing my experiences is really to encourage others that go into the same situation. But there's some information I'm never going to divulge. I'm not going to divulge details about my job. I'm not going to divulge confidential information regarding yours truly. Because unfortunately, we're living at a day and age when people will take your information and they'll use it against you. And just as a reminder, tonight's topic is ignore the noise. And the noise could be negative feedback, negative remarks, people trying to embarrass you, people trying to drag you into beefs. Okay. And one of the things that I said before, and it holds true. If you decide to be a content creator, you need to have a thick skin. Okay. Because you're going to have people that's going to misconstrue whatever you say or do. You're going to have people that are going to spread false narratives. You're going to have people who are going to lie. You have people that are going to call you every name in the book other than a child of God. Why? Some of it has to do with jealousy. Because particularly if your channel is successful as far as views, as far as people subscribing to your channel, as far as people putting comments, as far as people enjoying what you say, there's always going to be people that's going to be jealous of the success that you achieve. And of course, there's going to be people that are going to claim that you bought subs. Like recently, one pathetic fool made that claim. I didn't argue with the individual. I just simply said, okay, fine, produce your receipts. This individual could only state conjecture and basing it because of videos that gets no views. First of all, what this individual failed to understand, that when it comes to my audience, there are those who enjoy my shorts. There are those who enjoy my lives. And then there are those who enjoy both. Now, can I do better with my lives as far as viewership? Definitely. And I'm striving to do better. But one thing I know for sure is that, yeah, I can go negative, and I might get some subs along the way. I might get people who may consume my content by me being negative. But the question is, what type of audience I'm going to create? Because what happens when you have the need to constantly go negative, you have to push the envelope further and further and further. You have to be more outrageous. And that's a path that I refuse to take. Okay? Because then it becomes an endless cycle. And in all fairness, I do want my channel to reflect who I am and what I believe in, which is what every serious content creator wants to do. So people are going to say what they wish. People are going to come to whatever conclusions that they arrive at. You're going to have people who will call you every name in the book other than a child of God. You're going to have individuals that are going to try to elicit a negative response, because what that does is enables them to continue. And I have seen content creators, when they engage in going back and forth with certain individuals, all it does is enable them to continue. And it goes back and forth. And what you're doing is that you're giving that person too much power to affect you. Which is why, for the most part, whenever people say whatever they wish, nothing. Those individuals that are easily influenced by such people, I really don't need them consuming my content. And those who are following in this content creator journey know what type of person I am. Am I perfect? No. Have I made mistakes? Yes. Have I acted foolishly at times? Yes. But I own up to them. And I try to learn from my mistakes. So we got to focus now on how to deal with the noise. And it basically boils down to learning to ignore the noise. Yes, you can respond to every negative reaction, every negative word, and just go back and forth and say negative words and make negative things about that individual. But what that does is it enables that person to continue. And that you are allowing that individual to live rent-free in your mind. I'm sorry. My mind is not going to be occupied by any of my naysayers or haters. And in fact, after this is something preachy, Philippians 4:8 says it very well. Those things that are pure, those things that are noble, those things that are worthy of praise, contemplate on those things. I'm not going to spend my time and energy thinking about that people call me every name other than a child of God. I'm not going to spend my time thinking about people who hate watch. I'm not going to spend my time thinking about those that devote lives about me. But what I find humorous, okay, is that when you have a content creator and you allow your guests to take, to take control, so to speak, for you to focus on one topic. To spend 75% of that life talking about a person that you are obsessed about. And then wondering why things have gotten messy. The reality is this, and I know some people don't want to face it, but it is true. Each content creator is responsible for everything that happens in their respective channels. Okay? Everything. Because you're the one that sets the rules. You're the one that determines who gets on your panel. You determine what's going to be the topic at hand. And it is your responsibility to make sure that people don't try to take control of your platform in order to focus on something that's completely off the topic, particularly when it has to do with a beef with someone. That just screams lack of maturity. That screams lack of individual responsibility. That screams lack of accountability. And we all know for a fact for some people, accountability is like kryptonite. Because there's certain people that for whatever reason choose to ignore the actions and consequences that they created. So you're ignoring it. Okay? And to be perfectly honest, you'd be surprised how powerful it is just to ignore someone. Because when you demonstrate the ability to ignore what people say or what people do, it bothers the heck out of them. Because you're not giving them the attention that they need. You're not enabling their behavior. You are not focusing on them. And let's keep it real, folks. We do have what I like to call is attention-seeking horse. Now I know it's kind of a rough term, but it's true. You have certain individuals that will do or say anything in order to get a reaction because they get off it. So how do you deal with such individuals? You ignore them. What that does, it bothers them to know. Now, what they will do is they'll say other things in order to try to get you to respond. But the more you ignore them, the more it bothers them. And I'm not going to lie. I know I shouldn't enjoy this, but sometimes I actually do enjoy some of these people crashing out because people, when people choose to ignore them and then they just crash out and get all emotional and they don't know how to deal with it. Okay. So when you are secure in who you are, secure in who you are as an individual, you will be able to ignore the noise. You'll be able to ignore what people say about you. Okay. And sooner or later, when these people say that they cannot get a response, they will move on to try to find another individual in order for them to react, in order for them to try to get under their skin. But the key is, again, knowing and being secure in yourself. I'm secure in myself. I know who I am. And when everything is said and done, I'm accountable to God Almighty and Hossein Negron. I'm not accountable to the haters. I'm not accountable to the naysayers. Do I care what my supporters say? Yeah. And I do, and if they have constructive criticism, I have no problem taking it. Okay? But when everything is said and done, again, I am accountable to God and myself. Why? Because because I'm secure who I am. The more secure you are in yourself, the more you're going to be able to ignore the naysayers. The more you're going to be able to ignore the attention-seeking horse. The more you will be able to ignore those that they're going to try to push your buttons. They're going to try to get you upset and to take you out of your element. Good evening, Irby. Thank you very much for stopping by. So the topic for tonight is ignore the noise. And that could be anything. Negative feedback, negative interaction, negative what have you. Speaking about content, my friend Irby has this YouTube channel where he airs a lot of content. He also shares a lot of content. So I'm going to ask that you show some love to my friend Irby. Check out his content and subscribe. Now, in all fairness, a lot of the times he does air late at night, as far as I'm concerned. So a lot of times you may have to, catch it on the playback. But check out his content nevertheless. Irby, I was just talking about how to deal with people that say, you're quite welcome, Irby, that say negative things about you, that will try to get you out of your skin, will try to rob you of your peace. And some of them, let's keep it real, they do it for a purpose, to try to get you to respond in a certain way. This is something that we have seen a great deal on social media. Not just here on... Thank you very much, Irby. Okay. The fact of the matter is, you have people that will say or do whatever because that's the only way that they feel good about themselves. It's by taking you out of your element trying to get under your skin. Okay. Because again, hurt people, hurt people. And the best that, when it comes to dealing with the noise, for the most part, the best thing to do is ignore them. Now, sometimes you do have to share, you do have to give a response, but I would suggest that you limit it. You don't have to respond to everything that they say, but just state your truth. And again, those individuals that are easily, deceived by what people have to say about yours truly, that's their issue. They're the ones with the problem, not me. Okay. And again, those of you who do interact with me know what type of person I am. So if there's people who never bother to take the time to watch my content or interact with me, want to listen to what my naysayers say, they're the ones with the problem, not me. So I basically said what I needed to say. Okay. So sooner or later, each one of us that produces the content are going to have naysayers, are going to have people that are going to talk trash, either about you, either about your content, or regarding the people that you choose to interact. What's the best solution? Ignore them and concentrate on being the best version of yourself. Okay? Because that's the best form of revenge. Is that when you're able to ignore the naysayers and just continue to concentrate on producing your content, in time you're going to see how successful you become. Okay. But like I said before, those who are self-assured, who are secure in themselves, are able to do these things. Hey, Gigi, thank you very much for stopping by. How are you doing tonight? So, the topic for tonight has been ignore the noise. And speaking about content, my friend Golden Goddess also has a YouTube channel where she talks about issues regarding mixed people, also gossip, also sometimes getting into politics whenever is necessary. And she also has her membership. So I'm going to ask you, if you have not done so, I'm going to ask you to please check out Golden Goddess's content. I'm going to ask that you subscribe. I'm also going to ask that you take advantage of a membership where you'll be able to see content that only members can partake in. Okay. You're quite welcome, Gigi. Always my pleasure to support you and to support anyone that's trying to create positive content. And I have known you for 4 years, and I just want to say that I've seen the level of maturity on your part. So, I mean, People will say whatever they wish. You cannot control what other people say or do. You control what is your response. And just bear with me because I'm still learning how to do these lives with my phone. Okay. Which is due to the fact that and the reason why I'm using my phone, because when I use my computer, um, there's a huge lag. So hopefully I'm not lagging. Or if I am lagging, it's not as long. Okay. Now, the next time I will be live will be on my other channel. Okay. And what I will be discussing is the struggle to maintain your identity when you live in a new country. Okay. When you immigrate from your country of origin to another country, there's always an issue with adapting. Boy. But Vanguard is calling me names on his community tab and his harassment page. I will pay. You know what? Some people, I hate to say this, but some people just have to learn how to grow up. And there are other ways to use your time. There are other ways. But it does that, I don't know. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I hate to say it, but you know what, Gigi? If people want to spend their time with beefs that's been going on for multiple years, they're the ones with the problem, not you. And I'm not just directing it to him. I'm directing it to people in general. Okay. I see hopefully I'm not lagging. Yeah, exactly. And this is the crazy part. Okay. And it's like it never dawned on them is that when they spend time and energy talking about us, calling us every name other than a child of God, they're creating free press. Okay? It's like it never dawned on them that they're creating free press for their so-called ops. And to be perfectly honest, in a sick, awkward way, I mean, they're like secret fans. I mean, when you think about it, when you have certain individuals Year after year, they never get over me. Like, well, you know what? I mean, it's just some people. All I can say is bless their hearts. They got nothing better to do but talk about the same crap every day. But you know what? Whatever floats their boats, that's all. But but the more you ignore these people, eventually they'll get tired and they'll try and find someone they're trying to get an emotional response. Because again, you cannot control what other people say or do. You only control what is your response. Yeah, I mean, you know what, Gigi, and that's the sad part. Because we might look, because we might be dealing with armed conflict on a global scale, and they're fussing about stuff that happened years ago. Really? Really? I mean, I'm sorry, but some people need to get a life. And when certain individuals decide to spend their time and energy talking about their ops, obsessing about their ops, I think they need to be placed in a 72-hour involuntary observation period in a rubber room with a straitjacket so they cannot hurt themselves. But you know what? Let them home. Let them stew in their stupidity. Let them speak their foolishness and confront to everybody how foolish they are. So next time we'll be live, I'll be talking about many people who immigrated to the United States legally and how they strive to be American citizens. And sometimes it could be a struggle with the identity, okay? Because on the one hand, yes, they may become naturalized U.S. citizens. However, when they go to their native lands for a visit, they're not looked upon in the same way. So the whole point is, yes, if you decide, learn to adapt to life in the United States, but at the same time, don't lose your individuality. And what you can do is you can incorporate some of your customs and beliefs into your American culture. Okay? Because one of the most positive things about life in the United States is its diversity. We virtually have people from virtually every country, island in the world living in the United States. And if you live in a major city like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, or Florida like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, You're going to see that to various degrees. So I'm going to share with you how you can adapt to life in the United States and maintain your own identity. And people will say what they wish about you, but just be self-secure of who you are. So, with that being said, I'm going to end this live. So, I'm going to ask, if you have not done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. Make sure you set put this in settings on all. So therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. And of course, the playback end, you're more than welcome to enter whatever comments. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Gigi. Yes, please hit the like. Okay. It doesn't cost you anything. Good night, Gigi. Thank you very much. It doesn't cost you anything, and it does help with the algorithm. Okay. And also it does help with the watch time, so I can get that YouTube swing. Okay. I'm already have more than enough subs, but it'll be great if I can get enough watch time so I can be monetized. And then I can have my own membership, which hopefully you would consider joining. So the playback end, you do your own thing. You're more than welcome to enter whatever comments that you wish. Just keep it respectful. And of course, I'm going to close the same way that I always close. We must do everything possible to avoid the presence of the mentally and intellectually challenged, because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by the stupidity and massive insanity. And of course, whatever we say or do, whether we eat or drink, we should do to the glory of God, which I believe is in 1 Corinthians. And with that being said, I wish you all a very wonderful good night. Take care. Stay blessed and peace.